Here on SportsLine, I'm Jon Burton. This is Iron Michael Chandler, two-time former Bellator lightweight world champion MMA fighter, one of the best MMA fighters pound for pound in the world. He lives right here in Nashville, and he wants to help you get in great shape at his great gym called Training Camp. Where's that located again?
400 Davidson Street, right south of Nissan Stadium, right across the river from downtown.
And I'm sure it's people can Google it or whatever they need to do.
TrainingCampNashville.com or our Instagram at TrainingCampNashville. Awesome.
Before we went to break, I kind of teased the fact that, you know what I found, again, I do some personal training as well. You obviously are a professional athlete, and you also have this great gym to help people get in shape. So many people ask me, and I'm sure they ask you, you know what? I want to start exercising. I want to get in better shape. I just don't know where to start. What do you say to those people?
I'd say that's one of the biggest problems with fitness in general. There is so much information out there that we don't know exactly.
Which is good and bad, right?
It's great, but it's almost analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
So you start analyzing this diet or that workout plan or this trainer or that, and I think the biggest thing is profess it. You either write it down or you tell your closest of kin. You tell your mom or your dad. You tell your wife, your husband. You tell your best friend. That way you're held accountable. And you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to start working out for the next 6 weeks. I'm going to run or walk or lift weights 3 days a week for the next 6 weeks. And you tell somebody, because if it's just me and my little world and I don't write it down or I don't tell anybody, it's that much easier to hit the snooze button and not go. It's that much easier to make excuses.
Because you're not accountable to anybody.
You're not accountable. So that's why I always say, if you have the means to be able to find a gym with a trainer that you can attach yourself to and almost be accountable to, and say, hey, John, hey, Susie, make me do this, make me stick to this, you know. And there's so many online training programs out there. There's so much
stuff
much
all over
knowledge.
YouTube and stuff.
Oh man, and I mean, and that's the thing I talk about too a lot with motivation and being inspired. I mean, our parents and our parents, they used to have to read books and newspapers, and and all that knowledge wasn't out there. Now we can hop on YouTube.com and type in anything we want. How to get in shape, and 6,000 videos will pop up. Whether they're right, whether they're wrong, there's a lot of information out there. But you know, I mean, and so with that, that's what I wanted to create, a place that I knew that every single person on my staff would be a great person for somebody. Anybody who came in and said, hey, I want to get personal trained, or I want to find a gym where I can grow in a fitness community, I know we'd have that at Training Camp. So,
and one of the things we talked about as well, to me, it starts with little changes you make in your life. I mean, you know, we'll get into eating right and diet and all that kind of stuff, and I don't like to use the word diet, you know, because eating right to me is a lifestyle, just like working out is a lifestyle. To me, diet's a 4-letter word, but it really does start with little things, right? And try, you know, parking a little bit further away from the building where you work at, so you have to walk a little bit longer. Take the stairs instead of the elevator, right? You know, to go for a little walk around the block, either before work or after work. Just start there. Start doing little subtle changes to your lifestyle, because really fitness is a lifestyle, right?
It really is, yeah. And that word diet is a tough one. It's a buzzword, because diets don't work a lot of times, you know, so many times. But when you just think about becoming a healthier human being, when you think about eating right, and just when you think about trying to find a place, you know, trying to find a way to get your heart rate up or be active and move that doesn't feel like working out, you know. For me in wrestling preseason, we would do a 7-mile run on Monday, and then on Wednesdays we had this crazy stadium run up and down the stadiums and carrying guys and doing all these like crazy things. But then on Friday we would go for a jog, and then we would play football. It was supposed to be flag football. A lot of times we would end up popping each other in the mouth, but that workout was fun for us, you know. And it was a way for us to grind on Monday, grind on Wednesday, be sore as heck. But when it was time to hop on that football field, a bunch of wrestlers who weren't the most athletic people, fitness football-wise, we had a blast, and it didn't feel like we were working out, but we were. And I think that's really what it is, the accountability of professing it, writing it down, and telling people, and then just realizing that you just have to start, and then it will eventually get easier. Just like writing, just like reading, just like anything.
Ride a bicycle.
Riding a bicycle. It starts, and you fall over, and you fall over, and you fall over. Eventually, you can take the training wheels off, and then before you know it, Evel Knievel.
That's right.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, you're flying over the Snake River Canyon, man. You're too young to remember Evel Knievel.
Exactly.
But all right, let's talk about that D word.
Yeah.
And again, it's not so much diet. It's eating better, right? It's a lifestyle of good eating. A lot of people don't know where to start. They know, listen, I drink a lot of beer. I eat a lot of junk food. I go to the vending machines too much. I'm ordering pizzas. I'm doing that. Where's a good base for people to start eating better?
You know, I think it's focusing on protein and vegetables. I get all my carbs from vegetables, and then fats as well. So I mean, number one misconception is fats don't make you fat.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Number two is that food pyramid that we all learned about, and it was like we're supposed to eat mainly carbs and breads and all that kind of stuff. It should actually flipped upside down,
right,
you know.
Right.
And that's one of the hardest things for people to wrap their head around too. Is like, wait, I can't eat carbs. You know, I'm gonna feel like not good. I'm going to this. I'm going to that. I love bread. I love donuts. I love this. I love that. And it's just one of those things where you can keep them in moderation. I always say start with a little bit, bring them down, but start with a little bit so you can have some, and then eventually, I don't even want grainy carbs anymore. I don't even really eat bread anymore. I don't even really eat those kinds of things, because eventually you get to a point where you're like, holy cow, I'm seeing the results and I feel better. I don't feel bogged down.
Right.
Protein, greens, fats, and then really just trying to stick to something, put it on paper, whether you have to buy it online, whether it's an online diet, or whether it's your personal trainer that you hire. When they give you something, just stick to it, and then drinking tons of water. You know. And then one thing I will say on the alcohol front, because let's be honest, we all love to enjoy an adult beverage. We're 14.
I know I do.
What I will say is,
they don't call me Johnny Nashville for nothing.
Johnny Nashville, exactly. No, but when I enjoy adult beverages, I really try to stick to. I'm a bourbon drinker, so I like bourbon on the rocks. No mixers, no chasers,
no soda mixers, anything like that.
Because then you're getting into that high fructose corn syrup. You're getting into those sugars, and honestly, you're getting into that hangover territory. A lot of times we don't get hungover because we drank too much alcohol. We actually drank too much mixers, too much of the Coke in the Jack and Coke, too much of the cranberry in the vodka cranberry. You know.
Gotcha.
So I like to stick it to. Bourbon on the rocks, or I like red wine. So those are the two things. When I cut out beer completely is when I really notice a large shift.
Because I was,
unfortunately,
I know, because I love beer.
Johnny Nashville.
No, listen. My dad was a beer drinker. His dad was a beer drinker. I love me an ice cold beer. But one of the things I found when I cut beer down significantly, I mean, the changes that I saw and felt in my body were astronomical.
Yeah.
Another common aspect too. Okay, you got to train, you got to eat right, but you also got to get your sleep. And I know it's tougher these days. You know, people. And you mentioned earlier, the most successful people get up like very early in the morning and to get their day going, to get started. And it's a good habit to be in, but. Where do you come out in terms of like rest and sleep and all that?
It's so much more important than you think. I mean, not even just from the rest standpoint, but your cortisol levels, your hormone levels, all of those things come into play. Whenever you're thinking about rest, I mean, obviously you want to get that 8 hours. I mean, you can get away with 7, but I mean, I always notice, and that's really what I do in training camp. I make sure, when not at training camp, but when I'm in my training camps for my fights, it's, you know, my wife knows we have to be off the phone by X amount of time, so I can be in bed by whatever time, so I can wake up and work out. Because I even though I work out at 10:30 in the morning, I still like to make sure I'm up by 7. Kind of like you said, I get up, I roll out, I stretch out, I have my morning time to myself, whether it's visualization or it's prayer, it's reading. And kind of have that morning routine and then go off into the day. But
so you start off with the mental and then you get into the physical as the day goes on, right?
Yeah, I tell you what, man, I went through 3 losses in a row. I came out like a I came out with a bang in 2011. I won the world title. I went 12-0. My first 12 fights, finished 7 of them in the first round.
Wow.
So I was on top of the world, top 3 in the world. Then I lost 3 fights in a row, and I realized I went 688 days without a win, and I realized that I wasn't taking extreme ownership of my mental game.
Right.
Physically, from head to toe, I was a kill machine. You know, you put me in the cage, I was physically on point. I was strong, I was fast, I was talented, I was where I needed to be, but the real battle is between your ears. And once I started to realize that, and I started to go downhill mentally, and then I started to realize that I needed to focus on success, not perfection, and then I also needed to really take ownership of reading books, watching YouTube videos, inspirational, motivational things, building myself up, visualizing myself winning, visualizing myself being great and going out there and accomplishing great things because I deserved it. So that's been one of the biggest things for me, is visualizing, and not just, you know, think about it for 5 seconds. It's a 10, 20 minute, 30 minute process. Wow. And I hear the crowd, I smell the canvas. Yeah. I feel the sweat. You know, it's gotten really vivid, and that's where I want it to be, and I want to continue to build that, because if you can fight the fight in your mind, when you step into the cage, you feel like you've already been there 1,000 times.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk more about what you do to prepare for a fight. I want to, you know, your training camp, your training, your diet, all that kind of stuff. And your phone calls are always welcome too. If you have any fitness tips or want to know more about training camp, his great gym here in Nashville. And you're not originally from Nashville, right?
No, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri.
That's right.
And then went to Mizzou, Columbia, Missouri. So
yeah, he's ours, Nashville, so take advantage of it.
That's right.
We'll be right back right after this. Stay with us.